I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show. Today on Blockchain Interviews with Dan Thomson, CEO of Sensei. Dan, welcome to the show and thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks.
Excited to dive into artificial intelligence, where it's going, what are the capabilities of integrating it with blockchain, digital replicas, intellectual property. I feel like we're merging ever closer to the metaverse each day. And I know Sensei is playing a role in that in certain ways as well. Would love to start off our conversation by just hearing a little bit about what you and your team have built at Sensei, how it fits into the AI and blockchain narrative, and then we can dive into all the details.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, Sensei is a new platform for creating digital, lifelike digital replicas of people. We build essentially these on-chain digital twins of individuals using their data about them, contextual information of where they're from, certain information that kind of plugs into who you are as an individual. We add voice so that it sounds like them as well and can talk back to them in the same way as we might talk to each other. And these essentially the idea behind Sensei is to create these autonomous digital replicas that not only preserve someone's like essence and memories and stories and personality, but also go beyond that, transcending generations to interact with future generations, as well as enabling us to interact with past generations like never before, and use and to also be used as contemporary assistants, to be used as your own personal replica, to be used for whether or not it's introductory phone calls, whether or not it is any kind of video conversation for whatever purpose. Could be like this, could be a knowledge sharing, could be anything from job hunting, matchmaking to licensing out your likeness to be used as an interactive NPC. So one day when there's a little Ashton bot running around the next iteration of Destiny or Halo, it will be able to reply as you and talk to people as you as a character, which is super exciting. And then the nice part about having this all on chain means any monetization that's gained from that, any value that's accrued in that knowledge data share and transfer can actually be accrued into the individual's wallet and account.
Wow, that is very cool. And I feel like there are a lot of different applications for this. I could definitely see building my own replica to become my own virtual assistant. Hopefully the AI can act on my behalf, and whether it's, respond to emails in the way that I would, or even take a call. I feel like as well, building digital replicas, as you mentioned, for generations, I feel like my grandma probably knows very little about AI, and she might not be here for that long. Maybe integrating her in so that I could save those memories for the future would be an interesting use case, or even potentially great grandmas that have already passed, or even political people, famous people. What are the limitations, or have you tried out all of these different use cases?
Yeah, so legacy technology is definitely one of the core use cases for this technology, and one of the easiest ones to understand. And I think it's the one that's kind of immortalized in like sci-fi and fiction quite a lot. So, we are very lucky, and this is actually where this all stemmed from. I wrote 2 books based on mind uploading and digital immortality a few years back. And we're very lucky to live in this first generation where we have so much data about us. And so we have the ability to share ourselves through generations, because generations to come will be able to, interact with these AI replicas. They'll be able to get to know us as we are, as we were, get to know our stories and find out all about us. Whether that's, directly passed down through family, or whether it's, we've already got an enterprise client who wants to use the technology to create these QR codes where they can be put on tombstones so that someone can literally scan them and see photos and videos of someone's life and interact with their replica to get to know them. Because, historically in the last few centuries, we've lost the ability to recall big stories. We don't have big stories about past generations, and typically, people have forgotten after 2, maybe 3 generations. And it's quite sad, really. Unless someone was particularly successful, famous, or super well documented, the vast majority of people fade into history after those 3 generations. So to be able to actually preserve a version of you that can interact with generations to come is amazing. And it's not just about legacy. It's not just about having that AI version of you persevere. We're talking about the ability for these replicas to actually do things for you, not just in the present but the future. Say if you've got kids, and maybe you don't like your kids, maybe you just don't trust them enough to leave your assets to them. Maybe you can actually have your AI replica manage your assets and perform daily tasks for you on your behalf after you pass. And so there's a world of opportunity just for these in the present, for the future. But yeah, the legacy aspect is definitely something that's most interesting. It's the reason I started thinking about this in the first place, the ability to essentially create a version of digital immortality for us to exist in a way that has only been possible for our generation. And it's really super exciting.
Yeah, it's very fascinating, and I wish that our elders were able to have this technology, and I would be able to learn so much more about my family history. But even your great grandma you barely know anything about just a few generations back, because this technology never existed, and it's very, very new. Of course, I feel like AI is going to grow in a hockey stick, exponentially over just the next coming years. Never mind the next many, many decades that hopefully both of us will still be alive. Who knows what the technology will be like in 50 years. Since it is fairly new, I'm curious if there's a lot of groundwork laid out for the intellectual capital or the intellectual property side of it. If I put myself into an AI replica, do I own that outright? And then if I pass, does the AI have a sentient enough being that it owns its own intellectual property? How would that work?
So that was actually one of the more interesting parts of one of the books I wrote about if they become good enough replicas and representative of you, and the AI is strong enough, then they could essentially start learning in their own right. They could actually learn from their surroundings, learn from the people, and actually have parallel but separate lives to you, a bit like identical twins, right? And would they then have their own legal rights? Would they then have their own essentially be set up in the same way as a company set up as a separate legal entity? And would that be possible? I think this is actually a lot where blockchain comes in as a really nice solution to the problem. So originally, even 6 years ago, when I wrote the first book, I wrote about the idea of using blockchain to verify the identity of a replica as your official replica. Because as soon as you can create one, you can technically create thousands of replicas or millions of them to act as you, whether for good or bad reasons. So by having some kind of blockchain ID, not only to verify that the replica you created is a lifelike version of you, so this could be done in association with like WorldCoin or some other kind of proof of humanity, but also to actually authorize them to and keep them accountable for their actions on chain, and then tie that back to you as an individual, or tie the actions back to the replica as a separate legal entity. It's super interesting. Obviously, nothing like the sort is even being thought about in terms of regulation. But I really love the idea that one day, you'll have a digital version of yourself that's active. It's not necessarily sentient. Maybe well be in the future. But even without sentience, like, is convincingly enough like you and can action things on your behalf in a way that's similar to pattern recognition, so that it's good enough to do things and do things well, but that would require some kind of legislation or regulation. And that's super fascinating, and it is where I'd love to get to, but that's one of the things that's a bit further away.
Definitely. I'd love to go back to square one. I'm curious about the Sensei platform itself and getting started in creating the replica. Say I wanted to start building a replica. I would go to the platform, and what do? You do a 21 questions, you tell it as much as you can about your life, speak to it. What are sort of the basic parts of information that it first starts asking you?
Sure. So yeah, the first use case we've developed out is for dementia patients and health tech, essentially replicating dementia patients and their loved ones to act as a kind of a therapeutic system for the patients, preserving their memories, enabling carers to have a dashboard to track their cognitive decline. As part of the training for the replicas, we are working through the iterations and then improving the entire time. So right now, it is more complicated than we want it to be, and it will get better. So right now, it is essentially that 21 questions. Go through and answer with as much information as possible. And then beyond that, we then have an AI a training bot called Athena, who will then essentially talk to you like a friend. We'll get to know you, we'll ask you questions and keep asking you questions about various topics in different ways to get contextual information as well, so that it gets enough information to be able to create a good enough replica, both in terms of mannerisms, in terms of contextual speaking, and also just stories. We then capture your voice, and then so actually it's something in our monkey brains. As soon as you hear someone's voice, it makes it feel like it's more them as well. Mm-hmm. So then you've got quite a lot of information about someone, and their voice telling you with their story. So it does end up feeling more genuine. So that's a long way to our training at the moment. In the not too distant future, we will actually have the ability to upload files. So things like WhatsApp conversations, Twitter feeds, file uploads, any additional information that you could upload, as well as photos and videos. So all of that will go into the training data, because we'll have video and image recognition in there as well. And all of that will feed into what your replica gets trained on.
It's very cool. And I feel like as AI gets better, even one WhatsApp voice clip or one photo at one age, the AI can sort of build backwards and forwards. I think it's going to be crazy, and people aren't going to believe how good it's going to be in the coming years. And I like that approach that your team has as a first use case with the dementia patients. It sort of reminds me of Neuralink with Elon Musk. He's building this chip that it almost has infinite power, but starting out to help quadriplegics. I saw the video recently where the quadriplegic was playing chess with his mind, which is pretty crazy. I feel like once that gets tested and becomes a little bit more normalized, and people understand the value with Sensei as well. Hey, my grandparents also had dementia. This would have been an amazing technology. But at the same time, also can be used to work on this busy, blockchain schedule that never sleeps. I feel like that technology will evolve to all these other use cases as well. I'm curious on where you think AI is at right now in its readiness, combining AI and blockchain to integrate the technology for business needs, for all of the super users in the world that are looking to make their work more efficient with AI.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in AI. Obviously, been implementing into both systems, both for personal and professional, for the last couple of years. Where it aligns with Web3 and crypto as a whole, I think is probably not as strong a link as most people would imagine it is. I think that obviously there are very obvious implementations, everything from data analysis to prediction markets and improving efficiencies across the board. And I think likewise, I think that blockchain serves as a really nice solution for the transactions in the age of AI. So fast, easy transactions globally, instantly, is definitely going to become a huge part for AIs to transact with each other and globally without having to deal with any centralized systems in between. So I think that there is alignment. I don't think the direct I don't think one needs the other, or in particular, but I think there is alignment, and I think that the benefits of both do push both further and faster. but likewise, blockchain also improves lots of other systems, and AI improves lots of other systems as well. Yeah, some of the use cases that we see for AI and blockchain, everything from fetch AI agents are really cool. It's just an on-chain version of, and we will be implementing themselves. They're our partners. So by implementing AI agents behind our replicas, that's what enables them to do things. So at the moment, it's super simple. It's things like search for local restaurants. But as soon as it becomes book a local restaurant or book my favorite restaurant, suddenly your replicas start to kind of have that autonomy. And then, that's a snowball effect all the way down to actually being able to do like big, serious tasks online for you. It could be fill out your entire tax return for you. And then, that becomes a lot less stressful. There's plenty of applications for that in terms of, is it necessary to have it on chain? Probably not. Is it nice? Yeah. And I think we're big proponents, big believers that Web3 is a better way of doing things. So we get asked a lot, why are we building this on chain? And the reality is I just believe it is a better technology for what we're trying to do. So on top of the, Web3 authorization ID that we talked about already, building our data marketplace to actually accrue value for the users and the owners of the replicas is important. Having the, because if some of the non-private data is being used to be, essentially generate value elsewhere, that's that should be value that is owned by the replica owner and creator. Likewise, having decentralized data storage just helps to protect privacy and is better for longevity. And even the replicas themselves, there's value in someone's replica. Someone maybe more famous than others, and having that replica mintable as an NFT down the line and tradable as an NFT means that someone who maybe has passed in a few years ago, the rights for them and the rights to their replica might be able to be passed on and sold to various individuals and traded.
Yeah, no, those are all great use cases, and tokenizing it, I feel like would definitely make it easier to transfer and just more transparent, and just recording everything on the blockchain is awesome. So thank you for explaining that part a little bit. I'm curious on the crypto side of blockchain. From what I understand, you guys are also integrating in a Sensei token to create value and be able to transfer it around throughout the ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Sensei token is initially being deployed to Ethereum mainnet, but it has an layer 0 OFT, the Omnichain fungible token, implemented into it. So it means that we can deploy to other L2s and soon non-EVMs as well, should we wish to. So we may deploy to Arbitrum or Mantle down the road in the not too distant future to enable faster, less costly transactions. So that means that when we implement the token into the ecosystem properly, we will essentially be able to not only take payments for subscriptions, subscriptions being the main revenue model here, we'll be able to offer monetization for use cases and interactions with the replicas on the platform. So obviously any users coming in who are paying for subscriptions to interact with replicas, that revenue share will go to the replica owner. And then likewise, when we do then license out the technology to different use cases and different API calls, we'll be able to monetize that as well. And then that data will obviously go to that value will be accrued and be accumulated in the Sensei token on the user's account. And those use cases could be anything. Like I said, we talked about interactive NPCs. It could be someone who maybe is a particular expert in a field. Could be Ashton out there earning money teaching about blockchain or teaching about investing in blockchain, and people who are subscribing to that off of one of your platforms would be accruing money for you via your replica, and that would be accrued into your account. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities. We will be exploring one or two use cases ourselves. But the vast majority of different use cases we list and we talk about a lot, and we welcome anyone to come and talk to us about exploring any of them themselves if they want to build with the Sensei.
It's very cool. And You talked about the early use cases. What's the timeline, or is it available right now for people to start testing out the platform and building a basic replicas?
Yeah, so it is live. So you go to sensay.io, and we've got the first use case, the dementia, already live. We've got about over 25,000 users already
Wow.
using the platform, which has been great traction. We haven't pushed out too much, and so it's been nice to see such a big pickup. The other use cases will be in I guess next quarter, next 2 quarters. We've got spoilers, but I'm not going to say which use cases in particular we're exploring ourselves. But we have had a couple of enterprise clients, as I mentioned, one for the legacy technology, a few inquiries for that. But yeah, as soon as our focus really is on the ability to replicate people in with really good quality replicas that are consistent, not too buggy, and enable access to them via the API. The next kind of steps for us really are implementing video replication, so the ability to have a live stream video call with the replica, which is really cool, and also just improving the training, so enabling faster, easier training, both in terms of file uploads, but also we're working with a couple of partners to develop out the ability to actually have essentially a phone call. So you get a phone call from the training bot in a voice of your choosing, and it will just ask you a few questions for like 20 minutes every week, and whatever answer you give just goes back into the training for your replica.
That's very cool. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to test out the initial stages because I want to be there when the other use cases come out, and I could really use a virtual assistant myself. That is myself, because blockchain never sleeps, and if you're not struggling to keep up, then you're not paying attention because there's just so much going on. On the crypto side of it, you mentioned the Sensei token intricacies, how it works in the system. I know that the team is in the process of releasing it into the market right now. Can you talk about exactly where it's at and how can people learn more and get involved on that part?
Yeah, sure. So shockingly, we've done things a bit backwards. We've bootstrapped ourselves to this point, which has been fun. I don't recommend it. So yeah, we've got to this point where we've actually built out most of the platform, bootstrap with a team who believe in the project and see the future, and have been working, around other jobs and where they can to help us get here. We have achieved a lot even with that. So we also then decided to actually essentially go straight for a public sale. So we haven't done any pre-sales or private rounds or kind of KOL or VC rounds for this. No pre-seed or seeds. So it's a public sale and it started last week, and it's got 5 parts. I think with launch pads, gem pads, engine starter, pools, communitas, and Fjord Foundry. There's some solid launch pads with a liquidity bootstrapping pool at the end before we list onto decentralized and centralized exchanges next week. So we're in the middle of it right now. Tomorrow is Wednesday, which means Communitas launches, Engine Starter and Gempad. Gempad was last week. It sold out in 4 minutes. Engine Starter was yesterday. That sold out in 4 minutes. So it's the price has been set, I guess, fairly, relatively, low compared to other AI tokens. But apparently there's just a huge amount of demand. So we expect it to, do extremely well, and hopefully that it rewards the community and people who've been with us for quite a while now to do very well out of it, and gives us the capital we need to actually keep building out the products in the way we want to.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Congratulations on bootstrapping it to this far, and just not having to have the VCs down your throats. It probably helps. It's a struggle, but I think it's worth it in the end. And congratulations on selling those out in such a short time. I'm really excited for just the product itself because there's so many potential use cases for AI, but something like ChatGPT where anybody was able to just go and start inputting and receiving information back really opens people's eyes up to, hey, this is not just for high-level corporations to utilize AI in their trading strategies. This is something that I can use as an individual for myself, for work, or just for family, or just for recognition of my family's heritage after they pass, which is really cool. I feel like that helps a lot more people that aren't even tech users. So I'm excited to see how Sensei grows out. I will definitely leave the link to the platform as well as the launchpads and other information, the community social links as well, in the show notes below. All the best with everything moving forward in Sensei. I would love to follow up in the coming quarters, as you mentioned, for the next use cases and see how the growth of the platform goes.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm excited too. It's a big, bright future. No idea where we're going to end up, but it's we've got a lot of fun products to build.